Story time. This isn't the first time the history's been under attack, and I will give you an example of how we fought back last time. This is not to pat myself on the back, but to give you just some context and show you why I think I know what I'm talking about, but also why I am so pissed off about everybody that is staying silent, everybody that is appeasing, even with inaction, and calling out those sites and individuals from Ken Burns to Mount Vernon who are not a part of the solution, they're part of the problem. So anyway, hey folks, I'm Todd Sturmer. I teach public history at Johns Hopkins, and from 2010 to 2014, I was the historian of Colonial Williamsburg's programming, and I wrote the official guide to Colonial Williamsburg. Not that long ago, the Tea Party, which was the political forerunners of MAGA for those younger members of this audience, they attacked honest history. They were the basis for modern MAGA. They weren't just playing dress up with tricorn hats, of course, like all these sort of living history folks that you see running around celebrating the 250th anniversary today. They were the first folks to actually weaponize the Patriot Myth, specifically to reshape political identity as a tool to provoke political behavior. And they were winning. They hijacked the imagery of the American Revolution, Tea Party, anyone? Stripped it down and sold it back to their audiences as a sanitized, self-righteous, cozy origin story. And at Colonial Williamsburg in the early 2010s, we knew exactly what that meant. We weren't political operatives. We weren't ideologues. We were just historians, public historians, and curators and interpreters and marketing professionals. We were Republicans, Democrats, Independents, but we all understood that if the Tea Party succeeded in embedding their version of history in the political consciousness, if they made it the foundation of a new political movement, there would be no coming back from it, or at least the clawing back would be long and hard. So if you were at a place called 2nd Street in those days, you heard those conversations late into the night, every night. I swear we kept that place afloat. But we had a choice and we knew it. We could play it safe. We could lean into the cozy aesthetics of powdered wigs and butter churns and give our core visitors just what they wanted, a soft, focused nostalgia that they expected to make them feel better about who they were. Or we could do what public history is supposed to do. Tell the truth, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. So we leaned in hard. We rewrote every building tour. We built an immersive children's experience that taught them about black men and women on both sides of the revolution. We taught them about Loyalists and the role of the French in winning the war. We expanded our Revolutionary City program into a full theatrical experience that pulled visitors in, not as spectators, but as participants in a revolutionary moment, faced with all the complexity of it, all the choices and challenges. We didn't represent the American Revolution and the wars for independence as a political fairy tale. It was a period of conflict and contradiction and radical change, and we wanted our guests to actually participate in negotiating them. And then we backed it up with extensive digital outreach, sort of at the beginning of this digital turn, including ouramericanrevolution.org. Yeah, that site that CW no longer connects to. A pioneering social media strategy, shout out to my first foray as the history doctor on Twitter, with a marketing team run by a marketing team that understood the stakes. We have an anthropologist who was the head of our marketing team. How cool was that? Keeping us straight on all kinds of things, particularly Indigenous history. And you know what? It worked. Visitors engaged. They asked real questions. They walked away understanding that the American Revolution wasn't a neat and tiny morality play. It was brutal, uncertain, deeply flawed, and only some people got to call it a victory. And then they came back with more questions. And then they left with more understanding. And you see the virtuous cycle? But all that, gone fairly quickly. None of those leaders are at CW anymore. The heart of our team, our creative director, was pushed out first. I left for Harvard right after that. The last ones were pushed out actually not that long ago, fighting kind of a rearguard action for honest history. The board brought in a conservative Republican as president, and suddenly everything that made that work matter disappeared. The programming went the way of Mount Vernon, embracing a shallow, aesthetic-driven history that tokenizes marginalized voices just enough to look inclusive while reinforcing the same old myth of noble white patriots and getting very comfortable with the far right. And that's where they are today. So here we are again. Project 2025 is here. The 1776 Commission never really went away, and heritage sites across the country are rolling over or staying silent, hoping they won't be targeted next. So you need to ask, what are they waiting for? Because the fight isn't coming, it's already here. History is always political. But honest history, that's what makes a difference. That's what shapes how people see themselves in their country as part of their country's history. That's what challenges the comfortable lies that keep power where it's always been, and what these folks want to make even more powerful. So what do? What can heritage sites and public historians do? Well, we already talked about it one way. Know your tackle and make it. Find your lane. But we can also do what we did before, because we used every tool that we had, and we have even more of those tools today. We tell the stories that need to be told. We refuse to be silent. And this time, with digital platforms at our disposal, we can amplify those stories and the people who tell them like never before. And they can't stop all of us. Now, I wrote about all of this, what we did at Colonial Williamsburg, why it worked, and why it at least can happen again on my Patreon, my free Patreon account. So you can check it out there. The link's below. But also linked there is I'm linking to a 2013 article from Salon's current executive editor, about how we at CW, we schooled the Tea Party with our confrontational approach to honest history. This will not be new to you and a new idea and a new concept or new language to anyone who is a part of this community. This is who I am. And so this kind of reminds us, though, it was sent to me this morning, that article, to remind us of who we once were. And so many of you who are part of this community and who we could be again. And that's what we can do to fight this.